Week 2. Firstly, let's recapture some of the key elements that you have already gone through and learned from Week 1. You should by now have formed your coursework groups and made formal introductions, as well as identified who is your key team leader. Secondly, you should already by now have understood the coursework brief and the expectations for each individual discipline. Finally, you should also have already made yourselves fully aware with the module expectations, as well as the timetables and the locations for your 3-hour sessional groups. Let's review what to expect today. Today you will have a generic introduction to BIM, which will highlight some of the key concepts and the context behind building information modeling. You will also get a familiarity with how building information modeling applies to each individual discipline within this module. And finally, you will also have the opportunity to meet within your groups and to begin to plan and progress your coursework. In the lab, this week you will have set out a practical task within the computer lab. This interactive tutorial is here to serve you as a good introduction to the key concepts of modeling within Revit. For some of you, you might already be familiar with the basics of drawing elements and adding model elements to Revit files. But for most of you, this will be the first time that you will be opening a Revit file and drawing elements and components. The key outcomes for this week's session include modeling exterior walls and interior walls, adding doors and window elements, creating floors and roof elements. At the end of each lab session, you will also have an assessment, a quiz. This week's quiz will serve to identify whether you have fully understood the basic concepts of modeling within Revit. Now, although the quiz is not assessed, it will be monitored for activity. Therefore, every single group member will have to complete this quiz. With your group, you can already begin to progress and highlight areas of development. As you complete your interactive tutorials, you should also note that these 3-hour sessions serve a flexible purpose. This means that if you want to work on the individual Revit tasks at home, you can. You can use the 3-hour sessions to also work within your group and to identify the gaps. For instance, you may want to highlight this week what are the specific software requirements for each individual discipline. One example of this could be, for instance, to highlight with your construction managers that they will have to develop a 4D BIM simulation. It's therefore necessary for that team member to then go on and learn those basic skills to develop a 4D simulation. Additional reading. This week, you will have outlined your first additional reading from an external resource. For this particular module, we will be using the BIM Handbook. The first chapter is your supplementary reading for this week. This introductory chapter will guide you through the context and the basic key definitions of building information modeling and how it applies in a practical setting.